Yo, hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video we're talking about understanding evaluation context and how evaluation context works in Power BI. And when we are talking about evaluation context, a lot of people always find this word kind of confusing and they don't know what it means in Power BI. So evaluation context is just a context that shows how Power BI behave initially before you start altering the context or before you start writing different calculation. And this evaluation context can be look at in two different ways, which is the filter context and also the row context. So I'm going to give you the example of the two, which is the filter context and the row context. So let's start from an example of a filter context. In DAX, when you write a formula, probably a simple measure, in the previous video we wrote a measure on total revenue. So let's say, for example, I bring in a table into my DAX, and inside this table I put in probably something from where, which is region, and then this region I put in a total revenue that I wrote in my previous video. Now this total revenue, right, that you're looking at here, I only did a sum of total revenue, right? And then when you look at the calculation, you will see what I did is it's just a sum of faxes revenue. And why is it giving me revenue breakdown for the region? I probably don't know why, because it's just using the filter context. So this is called a filter context. So just using the filter context to break down the region by whatever measure I put right there. So another way I can also kind of look at a filter context is maybe you probably bring in a slicer in. Probably maybe I have a slicer here, and inside the slicer I kind of put like maybe let's say a day category or something. And here, when I click on observance, you notice that this figure changed from whatever it is to 842. Let me click on local holiday, and this also changed. So this is regarded as a filter context. So I didn't write calculation for public separately. I didn't write calculation for local holiday separately, and all these are basically just coming and is behaving based on something called a filter contest, right? Another way you can kind of see a filter contest is you can use this filter that we have here. This filter that we have here. Let's say you drop something in the filter. For example, I drop like a model name right here to probably filter this visual. So when I select computer repair, you notice that the number also change as well. So this is a filter contest, right? DAX is filtering based on whatever you put there, and that's how the system behave. So for me, I like to call this an implicit measure, because this is like what DAX is doing myself. I didn't really do much. So it's just using a filter context to change my calculations and my formula. And if you look at this same number, the total revenue here is the same number I put in a card here, and this is 1.28 billion, right? So if I clear this slicer right now, and I also clear this one, you notice that this and this is the same. This is 100.5 billion, and this is also 100.5 billion. The only reason I make this change is because I drag something inside this. Now let me put another thing. Let's say, for example, I put a model name right here as well. You see that it has also changed the filter context in such a way that it breaks down the model name based on the actual value, and I didn't really do nothing much. So that is regarded as a filter contest, right? That is what a filter contest is. For row contest, on the other hand, because for filter contest, you notice that as you're bringing the categories inside, it's just filtering the numbers based on the whatever categories you are filtering. And if you look at this region and model, in my data model, you see they are connect directly. This is where the region is coming from, where, and it's connected directly to my fact. So this table is kind of filtering this table, and also for the day category is coming from my when, and this is also filtering the fact sales, which is this table right here. So all these dimensions are basically filtering this, and that's how a filter contest behave. But in terms of row contest is just a calculations that perform is process or is iteration based on row by row, right? Row by row. For the other one, as you drag a category inside a visual, you just do a calculation based on that. But row contest is just a calculation that performs its process based on row by row. An example I can use to show you that is, let's say I created a new column here, right? Create a new column here, and I already have my revenue and my units sold. I have my revenue and my units sold here, so I want to determine, well, my revenue multiplied by my units sold, right? I just want to do a simple calculations like that to say I want to determine a um, total rev based on units sold, right? Based on units sold. So if I do a simple calculation here and I say multiply my revenue. So if I say revenue multiply by units sold, units sold. So this simple calculation that I did here is just basically multiplying this guy by this guy, and you see it's doing it row by row, row by row. So this is this row to this row, this row to this row, and it's different from filter contest. So this is called a row contest, right? So when you're creating a calculation, you need to understand how this calculation is behaving so that you can understand the way the calculation is worked. This is not the only way you can show an example of a row contest. I can also show you an example of a row contest. Let's say, for example, I write a measure, the same measure, using the same new column that I wrote in the table. I want to write it as a measure. So I want to say revenue uh, based on units sold, right? So if I want to calculate that, I can use a function called SUMX, right? So and I'll say SUMX the fact sales table, right? And then the expression. What's the expression? The expression is now the revenue, the same revenue, multiplied by my units sold, right? So this same calculation that I just wrote here, if you look at it, it's also performing a row context, and we also perform a filter contest as well. So this is kind of do a job of a row contest and a filter contest. So what it's doing basically is it's looking at this table and is multiplying revenue versus units sold, which means it's going to perform a row contest first, which is row by row. Then after that, it's now going to perform a filter contest. So if I bring this measure into this table, you can see it's also performing a filter contest, right? But within the measure as well, it's also doing a row contest um, in between. So that is filter contest and then row contest. That's a simple example of that. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to alter the filter contest.